right. Hello, everybody. You are very welcome to this week's check in. And this week we are having interesting guests on the check in. We have the African Youth Charter Hustlers with us. We also have other members. We have representation from the National Youth Council of Uganda. We have representation from the Uganda Olympics Committee. So I think today's deliberations are going to be quite interesting. But first, like the culture is, we just need to hear from everyone. Who are you and where are you calling from? I'll start with you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Bastian. My name is Chisuri Dennis. I'm calling from Kampala. I'm the one of the African Youth Charter Hustlers representing Uganda. I'm glad to have you here, all of you. Thank you, Mr. Bastian. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I think we shall have Mr. Katura Brandon. Tell us who you are and where you're calling in from. I think Brandon's connection is not the best. I will move first to Rahma. Rahma, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi,
All right.
everyone. My name is Rahma Suleiman, and I'm a youth hustler chatter from Tanzania. Yeah.
Ah, okay. It's nice to hear from you. Anytime you want to tell us where you're calling in from? Anytime, can you hear me? All right. Brandon, I see you are back. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, anytime I can hear you.
Okay. Would you like me to introduce myself?
Please, please. And where you're calling in from?
Okay. Thank you for having me. I am Eniton KDG. I'm calling in from Nigeria. I was honored to be selected as an advocate for the African Youth Charter in November 2020. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy to share more about the Youth Charter as we go on. I think I missed the question because I'm just joining. So if that was part of the question, I'm happy to share about the Youth Charter further.
All right. Earlier on, we were just having introductions, but
Okay.
I think a few members are just joining in, so we could just hear an introduction about the Youth Charter, and I hope that in your presentation, you will be able to tell us where you draw your mandate, how can one become a Youth Charter, and what exactly, I mean, a Youth Hustler, and what exactly you people do.
Okay, fantastic. So the Youth Charter is the African Youth Charter Hustlers, also known as Advocates. It's a flagship initiative that is youth-led, and it's more or less building a movement for a youth-led advocacy and accountability towards the ratification and implementation of the Youth Charter. To put it into context, there are some countries that actually do have their Youth Charter ratified already, and there are some countries that are yet to ratify their Youth Charter. So the mandate for the Youth Charter advocates and hustlers is to first, if your country is yet to ratify the Youth Charter, the expectation is for you to push for the ratification of the Youth Charter through advocacy to ensure that the government and other stakeholders involved ratify the Youth Charter. And for those whose countries are have already ratified the Youth Charter. The expectation and the mandate is to push for the implementation of the Youth Charter through advocacy in that particular country. So there are 2 advocates per country, 1 male, 1 female, and I think we're about 55 states. So far, we've recorded a success from Morocco, where the Youth Charter has been ratified between the period of November 2020 and now. November 2020 was when we started the initiative, and we have recently concluded our action plans. Our action plans vary from country to country. There are a number of priorities that we are focusing on, and it's all contained in the Youth Charter as it relates to freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, youth, health, and also women and girls. Confirming that you can still hear me, because I think the screen is frozen. So I want to confirm that you can still hear me.
We can still hear you, Anitan. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, fantastic. So there are different. The Youth Charter is a framework that was adopted in 2006, and it guides the engagement of empowerment and in the empowerment of youth in Africa. And it also has all the rights as it relates to freedom of expression, like I have shared. I hope you got that earlier. And also youth participation in decision making, which I must commend the effort of the ULEAD and the UNDP African team for this fireside chat that is coming up. So this is very important so that we contribute to policy making, policy deliberations. So that's basically what the Youth Charter is about. It is supported by the African Union Youth Office of the Envoy and also the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. In Nigeria particularly, our mandate is to prioritize the Youth Charter. It's already been ratified in our country, and our mandate is to prioritize the Youth Charter to raise awareness of the rights of youth in Nigeria, including women and girls, as contained in the Youth Charter, and to advocate for policies that would affect them, make an impact on their lives positively, particularly when it pertains to related GBV, gender-based violence issues, and also youth employment, which is also going to, would be a good platform to discuss these issues on Wednesday. And another mandate for us is advocating for increased participation of young people in decision making and leadership positions. We believe that it's very important, and it's timely for us here in Nigeria because we are 2 years, our general elections is in 2 years, and the idea is to encourage young people to exercise their civic responsibilities in voting and being voted for, and in also contributing to ensuring that the best people are put out there, the best young people are put out there to ensure that it's the final outcome is favorable for everyone. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
All right. Thank you so much, Anitan, for that very in-depth explanation on who the African Youth Charter Hustlers are. For the people following us live, you can share in the comment section what you would love to learn about the Hustlers. And I am keen to know, for you, our audience, have you heard of the African Youth Charter? And if you have, has your country ratified it? Talk to us about it, and let's just have our guests, the African Youth Charter Hustlers, try to feed into what you need to do to push your country if probably your country has not had efforts towards ratifying the charter. But for now, we shall keep going with the introduction of the guests I have today. But first, I see you, Sir Junior Kinyua. You say you're watching in from Nairobi, Kenya. You are from the Voluntary Action Leaders and you would like to engage more with us. We are happy to have you in engagement and we are glad that you're following live. But for now, I would like to have, I think, Brandon, tell us who you are and where you're calling in from and what the situation there is.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Can everyone
Yes,
hear me?
loud and clear.
Yes, my name is Brandon Katura, and I'm calling in from Kampala in Uganda, and I'm very, very happy to be platform and to be able to young people's voices. And as a young person, this is, I think, a very great initiative towards having meaningful impact on the continent and in our country. I work with the Uganda Olympic Committee, which is charged with managing the Olympics, so sending delegations to Olympics. As you are aware, which the Olympics are starting in we have already dispatched most of our athletes, and we are excited because in a period such as the pandemic, sport is one of the major tools that sort of unites us and brings us together and eliminates the differences that we are having as a continent and as a world. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from other young people as well. Thank you very much, Ivan.
Thank you, Brandon, for sharing. I think now we shall have Franklin with the introductions and then we can go into Franklin.
Thank you, Ivan. I think your volume is a little low. I don't know if I'm the only one struggling to hear.
Okay. Let me make sure I speak a little louder then. I hope this is
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. My name is Franklin Mireri. I work with Ivan Sebastian and another larger team in the ULEAD Africa Events Bureau and Communications Department. Currently tuning in from Arusha, Tanzania, and it's the home of the East African community and also the home of MS Training Center for Development Cooperation, the two entities, the two organizations that host the ULEAD Africa program, which comprises the East African Community Youth Ambassadors Platform and the ULEAD program. Thank you.
All right. Mafunda has just joined us. Mafunda, can you tell us where you're tuning from and how the situation is there? Okay, I think Mafunda, we are struggling with your connection. But
sorry, I muted myself. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I was on mute. Okay, can you all hear me, right?
We can.
Okay, I am Mafunda Kombofaki, the East Africa Community Youth Ambassador to Tanzania. I'm here tuning in Zanzibar. And also I'm the part of ULEAD Event Bureau in the communication, especially social media engagement in Swahili audiences. So I'm happy to be here, and what is going on in the whole Tanzania, I can say, is about the issue of money transfer. Money transferring is a big problem right now because of the issues like taxes and the cutoff from the government and everything. So this is the most issue that most youths are talking about. And yeah, there's nothing new, nothing special, but we're still moving on, we're still living. And we're getting ready for the Eid, and which is coming on this Wednesday.
All right. We wish you fruitful celebrations for the Eid. And I am now curious to know more about these transfer charges that is happening in Tanzania. We have Kamala. Kamala, tell us where you're calling in from. I'm sure you are going to have very emotional contributions on these issues of transfer charges. Kamala, I think you're muted. If you could unmute yourself.
Oh, Yeah, I salute you all. I'm calling from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. My name is Kamara Dixon, and I think it's a nice, a great opportunity to join you guys.
All right. How is Dar es Salaam? What is happening in Dar?
So Dar es Salaam, we are now on discussion. Actually, I think the last parliament they passed the financial bill, and among of the issues that they were introduced in the financial bill were to increase it's called patriotic taxation. And patriotic taxation were actually aimed to increase collecting more money to build schools and hospitals and other infrastructures. And then from there, 3 days is when its implication or implementation started, and it's as first for people because it's only taxed on when you on mobile money. So when you send money through one network or to other network, or when you withdraw money from one network, there are there are some charges that they go direct to the government, and then the government before it was actually taxing some little money from the operation of the mobile. So it's like double taxation. But then it has increased because most of the people that are using the mobile money for money transfer in the business, in anywhere. So most of young people have been affected. You'd not forget that in the past 6 years, we had no new job created. There was no employment. Workers were not even increased their salaries. And then the introduction of the new taxation on the mobile money, it will lead, or it has actually increased the pain to the young people, especially unemployed, and even those who are employed, but they can't afford the movement. So people in the social media everywhere. Today I was on one of the radio station. People are giving the testimony that I usually have like 80 customers who came to receive or send money. But now someone from Arusha told us like, yeah, in the World Day yesterday, he had 2 customers. So that shows that there is a challenge. So today I've heard the Minister of Finance that he has received the information from the Prime Minister and the President that they need to look on how they are going to balance this. Maybe it could be the better way on how to look about it, but in a real sense, the charges are still pinched to young people and the people here in Tanzania. So that was happening in Dar es Salaam.
Okay. I think that our governments are reading from the same script when it comes to taxation. And my challenge with taxation of, for example, mobile transaction is that we have very many people that do not have enough knowledge on financial literacy. And we have very many people in mostly the middle and lower classes that are unbanked. And most of their transactions they make are literally off their phone. So if you tax those more than you do the people in the banks, then I think you are pressing the people who need more help the most. But anyway, it is nice to hear that the challenge that is there is one that young people can advocate for, and we know that governments in East Africa and hopefully all over Africa are always willing to listen to their citizens. And now I would like to go to our big question. You know, this week is an exciting week because we are having the AFCFTA fireside chats, and they are happening this Wednesday. So the question I want to place to all of you is that in the fire chats, we are going to have, of course, we are going to have development partners. We are going to also have government actors. What would you like the panelists to answer to when it comes to this realization of a one African market or the African continental free trade area? But to do this, I want to bring someone who is more conversant with the area of AFCFTA, which is Franklin. And of course, Franklin will briefly share with us the intention of the AFCFTA and the One African Market. After which, I will be interested to hear from Brandon, because we know sport is one of the most lucrative businesses across the world. But in Africa here, I know that we have had challenges. I'm an ardent supporter of local football, and for no fear of contradiction, I will say that I support the Uganda Revenue Authority Club in Uganda. And we have had challenges before where we want to get players from other African countries and they are denied because of permits. And you know, this is also trade and this is business. And I would like to hear from Brandon on whether he feels that there are things that could be done to remove some of these tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. But first, we shall just have Franklin tell us about AFCFTA and its intention.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for that. The African Continental Free Trade Area, as we all know, we've heard of it. Its intention is simple. Its intention is to simplify trade, to increase intra-African trade from the current 12% to even at least 25%. That would be a huge increase, increasing intra-African trade. Practically, it simply means if I'm a trader, for example, any ton from Nigeria, if I'm a trader entry from Ghana, Mafunda from Zanzibar, and I want to trade, I have more options. I can easily move my goods from Tanzania, from Zanzibar, to the Congo, to Nigeria. That is the basic premise. But the challenge has been, as we know, our borders, our different tariffs that are the tariffs that are imposed on the different goods that come across our borders, that is from outside Africa and even within Africa. The different trade regimes, there's COMESA, for example, then there's the East African Community, then there's SADC, and then, of course, now the AFCFTA seeks to harmonize all that. So that is the backdrop. The discussion on Wednesday, the 21st of July, seeks to infuse more youth voices and even more youth awareness as, in the FCFTA, and that is why we are here. The African Youth Charter Hustlers also have an important mandate, which of course is linked to the Youth Charter. But all in all, we know that once trade is liberalized and enabled across our borders, young people will stand to benefit most. That's why this discussion has to happen with the young people and policymakers and even youth-led businesses, and to see how they can be able to leverage on the opportunities that are opening up gradually but very fast on the continent on the back of the AFCFTA. So we hope that this week, and even through the projects that we have been working on together, ULEAD began an initiative, a program called the African Continental Free Trade Area Youth Inclusion Accelerator Project. It's being supported by the German Agency for International Development for 2 years, and that's just one of the initiatives going across the continent. We have partnered with the youth-led organizations like Youth Hub Africa in West Africa, like the Nile Youth Development Actions for North Africa, like the J-Act for Central Africa, the Southern African Youth Forum, and the Southern African Development Community Youth Council, and the East African Community Youth Ambassadors Platform to deliver this initiative. And we hope that with the partnership that we are having with the African Youth Charter Hustlers in terms of mobilization, in terms of awareness creation, that the FCFTA will continue to be heard at the grassroots level where it is needed. The local youth farmer, the local youth entrepreneur will be able to know how to leverage on the possibilities that the FCFTA has opened up. Thank you. Over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you so much. And now, Brandon, what do you think the effects of this One African Free Market is on the sport of trade? Brandon, you are also muted. If you could kindly unmute yourself. We still can't hear you, Brandon.
Can you hear me?
Crystal clearly.
You can get me now?
Yes.
Yes, I think that it would be massive for sport in our industry and the continent at large. I think that mobility of different athletes in different sports would be massive in terms of changing, of course, fortunes financially. I think it would lead to create a lot of exposure. I think one of the things that I think all African countries, I think, need to work on is, of course, to improve on the standards of the different leagues in whatever games they play. Because you see, in order to discuss issues to do with free movement, also not neglect the fact of the quality are moving up to the continent. I think that that is also how do I get to play in the Nigerian league? Do I get to play in the Ghanaian league? Is that I need to have quality players here who can actually be able to compete favorably, so you can be able to play in these big leagues. So I think that a free trade area, even for sport, be massive. I also think that probably it could also sort of like an incentive for maybe across the continent to invest in infrastructure, help sport, because now when you know that you have athletes who can easily move beyond borders to pursue careers, then I think the governments, it becomes easier for government sort of improve on infrastructure, because one of the biggest challenges we have, I think, on the continent is infrastructure and funding. The government funding policies have not been intentional towards developing recreation as this hospitality sector, so to say. So I think that a free trade area would definitely push in that kind of direction for very many young people in my kind of industry. So I would totally support it. I know of the legal and tennis policies for most of the governments. Very many people are still a little bit reserved about it. I think even the pandemic has sort of put us in a place where there's going to still be restriction of people until total vaccination maybe on the continent. But I think moving forward, it could be a very big platform for young people, especially in the sports industry, for them to be able to pursue careers. I think it would be massive in terms of foreign direct investment back at home, because now when you're in Nigeria and you're earning the Naira, or you're in Egypt, or you're in Algeria, where you're probably going to be paid more money home, I think it increases the level of foreign direct investment. And for tourism, for sport tourism as a sector, which is also a bit growing right now on the continent, that now you will be able to have clubs and people from other countries easily come into other countries, either to do exhibition matches, whether it is to support initiatives. It creates more partnerships for most of these countries, especially the low developing countries. So I think it would also be massive for sports tourism, because then young people are going to be employed in those areas, because it's the future for most of the young people right now, especially in my country. The service industry is now contributing about 56%, I think, of our GDP. So young people are into those kinds of industries, especially the service industry, that sport, which have been contributing massively. So if you have that kind of, when we remove these trade barriers, I think it will do massively for our economy. Much ever.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for that in-depth input on how the AFCFTA would benefit sport. Because, you know, when people hear trade, they mostly think of this traditional business. It is always nice to get an angle of sport where we know that there are also barriers that will be lifted when we have a one African market. All right, fast forward, I want to go to you, Dennis. What do you think that the panelists this Wednesday should address as a challenge of AFCFTA? Or what would you want the government actors to commit to?
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. I think you can hear me well. Oh, thank you. Thank you, the previous speakers. They have brought everything entails to see that this agenda is very active to young people, especially in sports fraternity. We have realized that many young people like sports, but sometimes they fail on the free movement of their talents within the continent. And I think as we are organizing this event, we need to see that we are increasing the development and interest of young people. Yes, Mr. Sebastian, I was saying that as we are developing the interest of young people to see that they come into this arena or trade, we need to develop the interest of young people as we are creating the avenues to them. Because once there is no avenues, there's no way how we can interest these young people. As the previous speaker has been talking about the free movement of young people within the continent, this will interest the young people so that they can join the effort to find that there is free trade areas where they can innovate and create more opportunities for themselves and their friends. I think all points were good from the speakers, and what interested me is our previous speaker from the sports fraternity. You can realize that in Africa, mainly young people are interested in sports, and we need to intervene and bring them on board to tell them that here is the opportunity. You can extend the opportunity within your countries or within the continent of Africa, so that this one also can be an opportunity to them to exchange the talents and ideas from different countries. And I think for me, it's what I can ask from the panelists or the government or the concerned people, decision makers. I will emphasize on free movement. So they create us avenues to see that there's free movement within the continent with no much restrictions across the borders. Back to you, Mr. Sebastian. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis. I think that we also need to be cognizant of the challenges that would come with an open movement, for example, the security threat. But I agree with you that free movement is important, that why should it be hard for people within the continent to move from one country to another? When you talk about sports, when the African Cup of Nations is happening, it is very hard to actually travel to countries that are hosting these games. Yet it would be very good if we had Africans, like everyone has been saying after Brandon's submission, that sports is a unifying factor across the continent, even the world. But now I want to hear from you, Enitan. What do you think that needs to be addressed and is critical this Wednesday on the Fireside Chats? Okay, and Enitan is having a few challenges connecting. Kamala, I will jump to you. You're already agonizing on the situation in Dar es Salaam. What do you think the AFCFTA should do to help the situation?
Thank you so much. I've heard from the previous speaker about AFCFTA on the movement of goods and people across the continent. You know, there is, in Africa, it's easier for someone from Europe, a white man, to move across African countries without any restriction, rather than for a black person to move from one country to other country. Because we have that notion that we have created that if you see someone from maybe South Sudan, or Somalia, or DRC, you will have the mentality that, this is a terrorist, this they are drug dealers, they are what? Like, we have named our people a lot of names, but then we need to create a new mentality that Africa It's the continent of our ancestors. It's a continent of us, and it will be inherited by our brothers and sisters. So how are we creating the friendly environment? You see what happened in South Africa. Today, someone from Zimbabwe, if he's in South Africa, they treat you like a migrant. But someone is actually a person from the continent where they believe that he can participate. So this I think is not the level of policy, but how are we creating the friendship among or brotherhood among ourselves? Like someone from Uganda, yeah.
All right, Eniton, I see that you are back. I think we can hear from you now. Thank you so much, Kamala.
Yes, my sincere apologies. My connection. Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. I think I've really liked the direction of the questions that of our expectations from this fire chat discussion on Wednesday. Hearing a lot about how we can leverage on human capital as a continent, and how we can promote collaborations amongst talents in different countries, the creatives in the creative industry in the different countries. So I wouldn't dwell too much on that point. One thing that has really hit me hard this period is how hard COVID-19 has deepened the inequality gaps socio-economically for women and girls, because they have been hit really hard. And it would be good to think about policies that would affect them positively, policies that would promote inclusion, and policies that will benefit them when it comes to as it relates to trade across the continent. So yes, it would be good to have the panel discuss policy ideas that would benefit women and girls as it relates to trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, our time here is fast spent, but I just want to hear from Rahma. You have not said so much. Can you hear me? Rahma, can you hear me? Okay. I think the challenge is in
Oh,
Tanzania.
yeah. No, I can hear you. Can you please repeat the question?
All right. So I'm just checking with you what you want the panelists to answer about the African Continental Free Trade Area and the One African Market on Wednesday.
Okay. So
Okay.
from my side, I actually have 3 key elements that I think they're most crucial. So one will be innovation and creativity throughout the African continent. So most of my colleagues have been speaking about the African talents and all of that. So from my side, I have different perspectives, but I don't know how it's going to be figured out, because I believe most of these stakeholders are playing a very crucial role in the industry of creativity and innovation. For instance, with the aspect of sports and games. So I've been engaging myself on gamification and gaming in Africa. And most of the challenges in this area, you might find out like, okay, we have initiatives where we support our young people to actually unleash their potentials so as they manage to come up with the appropriate or approaches where they manage to identify ways of living throughout their talents. But most of the things we're actually facing is that they don't actually have sustainable platforms where they can just sell out their talents. So one of the things I've just recognized in this element, it's how these young people from Africa get a platform to sell out what they actually have and potential about, where other people can also buy through these people, and then maybe all of them will be benefited, like getting a mutual benefit. So that's one of the things. And you might find out, like, when they try to engage people in space, that they're capable of assisting them throughout, it's becoming very difficult for them to take initiative to support these young people. And most of the time, if you are not identified as maybe registered or whatever, then they can't actually support you. So I think these are the key aspects they actually need to pinpoint throughout their dialogue. So that's one. And number two will be the engagement. So we've been seeing a lot of interventions. These stakeholders have been engaging young people actually to pinpoint or address challenges throughout. But in reality, most of the young people engaged in these interventions, identifying potential areas for strengthening interventions and whatever, they actually repeat engaging the same young people, I can say from my own understanding, in which sometimes it's becoming so difficult to come up with different, what can I say, maybe different approaches to tackle these areas of works, because most of these young people will be joining like almost all the time, maybe this phase and then the other phase, while other people or other young people are left out behind. So I think there's a need of addressing the meaningful ways of engaging active participation of these young people or these young leaders from the continent, and see the possible way of coming together and work collaboratively without leaving anyone behind. So that's another area I would like them to address. Like, they actually need to understand how are we going to work together as collectively, as potential partners, including the young people and other potential stakeholders. And the third area, I'm not sure if it's related 100%, but most of us, we've been talking about entrepreneurship, employability, and all of these aspects. But right now we have a new concept in the world called social entrepreneurship, which is identified as a way that can be used to transform especially the lives of young people in Africa. So it's actually the concept of using social challenges and transforming them in a way that a young person can be able to create impact in his or her community, but at the same time manage to create some income. So this aspect has not been advocated much, I can say. So most of the time, even if we are thinking of like businesses, normal businesses, it's becoming so difficult. Even when we speak about profit, how young people can just move from one state to another to become independent, it's becoming so difficult because the process throughout employing one another, like employing oneself, it's becoming in the aspect of only predicting the impact, like incomes. But if they manage to come up with strategies to advocate for this kind of thing, like, okay, right now we are moving into social innovation where actually your business needs to relate to the tackling of challenges in your community. So if you manage to stand by yourself, but you also manage to take the hands of other young people in the community, not only on the aspect of income or money, whatever, maybe the trading and all of that, but also you are supporting the other people who left out behind. So I think those are the key elements that I believe they very important to be integrated in the dialogue or this the speaking process throughout the journey to Wednesday. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rohma. I think this check-in today has been very insightful. Franklin, you will agree with me that it looks like sports is one of the most uncharted grounds, yet it has a lot of force and immense following. So I think going forward, we shall also have people from Brandon's department to come here and tell us as sportsmen what they experience with carrying their talent across Africa as a trade, and how would they want the AFCFTA to help them. We see you, Ningayo Donang from Chad. We are happy that you're following us. Unfortunately, our time is fast spent and we shall have to conclude now. And colleagues, usually when we conclude, we just say goodbye, but we say the goodbye in our local languages. So I'll start with you, Brandon, who introduced the conversation of sport that has come on to be the highlight of the check-in today. You just say goodbye to us, but you have got to say it in your local language. But before you say goodbye, I want to say that I am rooting for all African countries in the Olympics. Go Uganda, go Uganda. But I'm rooting for Africa. Brandon.
Thank you very much, Ivan. We hope and people can actually do us proud and not disappear in Asia. And
Okay. Brandon went off in the middle of a very strong allegation. It would have been nice that we hear the end of it. Okay, he's back. Brandon, you've made a very strong allegation.
yes,
I would like to hear
so
where that ends.
no, it's not an allegation. It is just data from history. And I think because we have limited movement on the African continent, we prefer to move outside the continent. That's just a joke. So just my parting shot. I look forward to having engage more in the topics of diplomacy and, of course, the growth of the African continent. We hope that sport can fundamentally be used as a tool, not just by the EAC and the AU, but even with other organizations in transforming the lives of young people. I'm happy about our colleague from, is it Tanzania, who's talking about like esports now, which is a very growing industry amongst very many countries on the African continent. So in my local language, I come from the western part of this country. So I am a Munyankore by tribe. It has a lot of political sentiment in this country and comes with a certain level of privilege, but I have not been a beneficiary of that privilege. However, I will say in my language, Musibeje, Ruhanga Barinde, which is translated as have a good day and God bless you all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Sorry you have not benefited from the privileges that associate with your ancestry, but shouts out to Saidu P. Mansare from Sierra Leone. We are happy that you're joining in. And now that we have had someone from Uganda say hello to us, I think Kamala, you want to send us off, then we shall go to David, Rahma, Franklin, and Dennis. Kamala. You're still
Is
muted,
it
Kamala.
closing?
Yeah, we are closing.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm Kamara from Dar es Salaam. Asante sana na kwaheri ya kuonana.
Thank you, Kamala. David, say goodbye to us. I know you've not had so much time speaking, but say goodbye to us in your local language. Let us appreciate the diversity on this call. David, are you there? All right. Rahma.
Oh,
Rahma.
yes. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Okay. I come to you, Dennis, now. How do you say goodbye in your local language?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sebastian. Our speakers, Franklin and other colleagues. I'm Dennis from Uganda. First, we say, Mweraba musibe bulungi.
Okay. And Franklin?
Thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful hearing the different languages. For me, allow me to tell you in Swahili, it's the unifying language, at least over East Africa. And from us, I think, tunawatakia mchana mwema, which means we wish you a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Tomorrow we shall be on around the same time. And tomorrow we shall now be getting other young people across the region to tell us what questions would they want to have answered at the fireside chat this coming Wednesday. Thank you so much for making time to be with us on this check-in. Cheers.
Thank you.